Hello, today we're going to be learning about negative numbers and the four operations. That is add, subtract, times and divide. We'll start off with addition and subtraction. And the key for addition and subtraction is to consider a number line. If you picture a number line in your head or sketch a little one on paper, you'll probably be okay with the question. It's when people rush and try and think there's a straightforward rule. You've got to picture the number line. For addition and subtraction, think about a number line. So, the first thing we do is we look at our question, and the first number you see is the starting point on a number line. So, for example, if we have negative 5, add 3, let's consider this number line, and that first number there, when by first number I mean the minus 5 there, the negative 5. So that is our starting point on a number line. This is where we begin what we are doing. We're going to start at negative 5, and we're going to go either left or we're going to go to the right. If you do that as a first step, either in your head or on paper, you're probably going to be okay. So, the next thing we decide is, do we move up the line in this direction, or do we move down the line in this direction? And in this example, we're going to move up the line because we're going plus 3. So we start at negative 5, and we're going to go up the line 3 units. 1, 2, 3, and there we are. That finishing position of negative 2, that is our answer. So negative 5 is our starting point. Decide which way to go. Add 3. Well, add 3 is going to be a positive in this direction. This direction would be negative. So let's do another couple of examples. How do we decide if we go left or right? Well, there are some rules to that. As long as we do that first step, get a starting position, we go to the left, a negative effect on the result, if it's minus, if we add a negative, or if we subtract a positive. That is when we will go to the left, if this is the operation. We will go to the right if we just add a number, like in our last example, or, and this is kind of a tricky one to get your head around, if we subtract a negative. When you subtract a negative, when you take away a negative, you actually have a positive effect. And imagine like if you removed a bad thing from your life, that is a good thing. So if you had a football team who had the worst player in the world and he kept scoring own goals, if you take him out of the team, it has a positive effect. So let's do some examples. That'll probably help to make this even clearer. So, example, minus 3, add negative 4. Negative 3, add negative 4. We're going to start with negative 3. That is our starting point on the number line. Here we go, starting at negative 3. Then we decide, do we go left from here, or do I go right from here? Well, I am adding negative 4. And when I add a negative, I'm adding a negative, I go to the left. It has a negative overall effect. So I'm going to go 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's my final one. The answer here is negative 7. But remember, that first number is your starting point. Then decide, am I moving to the left or to the right? Let's have a look at another example. So this one addresses that double negative. Okay? So still, the first step is, with the negative 2, that is a starting point on the number line. First step always the same. Then decide negative, or taking away a negative here, that has a positive effect. We're going to move to the right. So when I take away negative 6, some people like to teach this, that you can change that minus minus to a plus, and they just draw a line in the middle. and make it into a plus. And that's absolutely fine. If you see two negatives next to each other, it has a positive effect, so you can change them into a plus. So when I subtract negative 6, I actually add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my answer there is positive 4, and I can just write the number 4 there. So minus 2 subtract negative 6 is equal to 4. Okay, that is adding and subtracting. I suggest you take some notes there, go away and have a practice of that. But if you're ready for some new stuff, we're going to move on to multiplication and division. And it's really important you treat these as almost two different subjects, because the rules for one are not the same as for the other, generally. They're very closely linked, but learning rules in your head doesn't work if you mix these up. So, addition and subtraction on the number line, multiplication and division, we're going to learn a few rules. And I'm just going to give you an example. This is probably easiest explained by examples. This one we know. When we've got a positive times a positive, the answer is a positive. So, for example, positive 7 times by positive 8 equals 56. 7 times 8 is 56. They're both positive. The result is positive. Now, if we have a positive times a negative, so if I had positive 7 multiplied by negative 8, well, the result is going to be negative. If one of the inputs is negative, with multiplication, the output is negative. So 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. And then if we have a look at this example here, if the first number is negative and the second number is positive, we still have a negative result. So if these symbols here, one is positive, one is negative, the result is going to be negative. Okay? So a negative times a positive is a negative. And last example is when we have a negative times a negative. Negative multiplied by a negative. So if I have negative 7 times by negative 8, the result becomes positive. So minus 7 times minus 8 is positive 56. And that's kind of the trickiest one to get your head around. A negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. If I've got negative 7 lots of negative 8, well, if I had 7 lots of negative 8, I'd be going backwards on the number line. So I'm doing the opposite. I'm flipping it over again. Learn the rules, put them into practice, and take your time. Make sure you do addition and subtraction on the number line. Think of a starting point and then a movement. This one, learn these 4 rules and apply them to multiplication and division. Okay? Those rules for multiplication, they are exactly the same for division. Okay? A positive divided by a positive is positive. Positive and a negative, whenever you've got the different signs, it's negative. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Those rules are the same for multiplication and division. Okay, thanks for watching.